So let's do a quick overview of DNS. So DNS stands for Domain Name System, and it's used to be able to map IP addresses to human readable names. This is something where, it makes it much easier for a human being to remember, a particular name like fluffy.cisco.com as opposed to 192.168.1.1. Whatever the IP address is, that's something that typically is going to be a lot harder to be able to remember. That's the whole purpose of DNS. DNS also allows you to be able to construct a tree system. So there's a root DNS server, which is handled, by the internet registering committees, and they actually control, providing the high-level domains. So if you ever go to a .com, those are supported by the naming registrars. The root DNS server is going to provide authoritative connectivity for all of those .coms, but your individual address, the one that you actually choose, you can potentially have a authoritative domain server for that particular one. So that's pretty much how it works. You've got your root DNS server, then you have a top-level domain server, which is that .com, .gov, .mil, and then you got an authoritative server for a domain. And this will be your DNS server that is going to be, advertising any particular devices that you have or sites that you have that you want to be able to expose to the internet. DNS is very useful from a troubleshooting perspective to be able to correlate those IP addresses in logs to device names. So that's why DNS is important to configure from a serviceability perspective, because it allows us to automatically and in many cases very easily, translate those IP addresses that we may be seeing in those logs into device names so we can go find out where that device is and what's going on. So at this point, let's do a quick demonstration of configuring DNS in UCS Director. So in this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to configure DNS for UCS Director. So just like NTP, this is typically done when you do your first setup of the appliance itself. So if you want to make changes, you have to go back through the guided setup. So we have to go back to administration, click guided setup, and then we're going to configure initial system configuration parameters. And then from there, we'll be able to continue it from the last saved state. And then you can see here all of the different parameters we have. So we'll move back up to DNS. And here you've got the ability to be able to modify your DNS server. So typically when you come in here, you will already have your DNS server configured because you first configured it when you were actually installing the appliance. But if I need to make changes to that, like say for example, I want to use an internet, another internet DNS server, I can maybe use Google's internet DNS and be able to add that to the list as a backup. I can very easily enter that here. Or if my DNS server address changes, that would allow me to be able to make those changes. As you can see, it's very easy to be able to make these configuration changes. Just simply type them in and then click next, and you're ready to go. So that's how you would configure DNS within UCS Director.